Good evening, you crazy ponies, and welcome to a non-pony episode of Mr. Kenyon's Pony Story Reading Fun Time. Yeah, you heard right, the story has absolutely nothing to do with ponies. My god. The submission is a personal work of Lord Fluffy of the TF2 Ponyville forums, a little sci-fi work called Dust Trackers. It's a short but enjoyable read. If you enjoy it, links will be provided in the video details for you to find Fluffy and harass him into making more. So, without further ado, I give you Lord Fluffy's Dust Trackers. Xanthi Province, Mars, February 28, 28, Imperial Standard Reckoning. Imperial Police Corporal Maggie Lee yawned. Cargo run sucked major dust. She'd grown up on combat adventure holo simulations and joined the Terran Defense Force dreaming about hot-rodding across the skies with the Orbital Guard. She'd hoped for a romantic call sign like Star Witch or Sapphire Rage. Instead...
Typhoid Maggie, this is Barsoom Control. We're revising your ETA. Satellite scan shows suspicious death sign out your way. Command wants a ground tooth flyby.
Maggie groaned. Too heavy to cruise the surface and lacking airfoils, her Sky Mule 6D cargo shuttle could boost straight up into orbit just fine, but ground-side vectoring was slow and tedious, like flying a concrete box. Definitely not her pick for scouting duty. The comm sighed.
Should be a cakewalk, Typhoid. Just check if anything suspicious is at these coordinates.
Right, Maggie mouthed silently, like maybe some surface-to-air toting mutants hoping for a giant bathtub to fly their way. The Imperial flyer on his radar caught Zipper completely by surprise. He and his buddy Ramrod had just herded a couple of trucks full of refugees into Garrison 4-2 Charlie, one of the few remaining dry tunnels in South Xanthi, and more importantly, part of the invisible underground known only to the Martian resistance. This particular rabbit hole was large enough for the trucks, but lacked clearance for the modified cargo loader Emancipator Herx, piloted by Zipper and Ramrod. The Cerasteel blast doors closed nice and snug, but there wasn't time yet to cover the convoy tracks, and a lingering haze of dust trailed straight to the tunnel entrance. When the red blip came up on his HUD, Zipper dropped his smoke and fumbled for the comlink toggle. If they stuck to the shadows, a bird might not spot him. It might not. The two blips on the radar went unnoticed at first while Maggie fumed, promising herself she'd get off this dirtball planet and join the Imperial Knights. Then she glanced down and snapped alert. What the hell? Maggie swung the Sky Mule around for a closer look. She needed to be sure it wasn't just some old fertilizer convoy ruins or nomad hutch before she called in any further support. Barsoom, this is Typhoid. Got something. Moving to investigate. Damn it! Zipper banged his instrument panel in frustration. Nearly 10 hours straight, picking their way carefully through the canyons and gulches, everything stone cool, only to be compromised at the last minute. Nobody expected imp flybys this far out. Zipper shifted and looked through his dust-filled canopy at Ramrod's stubby Emancipator squatting atop a nearby rise, the other Herc's rust and gray matching the Martian desert. Yo, Ramrod! He gritted over the comlink. Got a visual on that bird? Ramrod's sleepy drawl crackled back after a moment. Raj, Zipper. Imp-last cargo hauler. Better squick it, huh? His Emancipator stood and wiggled the blasters fitted atop and beneath the cockpit. Hell yes, Brainburn! If it spotted us, that's it for the Garrison web in the sector! Zipper was already moving, accelerating his own Emancipator along a rock wall away from the tunnel. Hopefully the additional dust would hide the location of the entrance. Ramrod cleared his throat, an explosive noise in Zipper's ear. Well, I think I'm in range if I get a little higher. That's a heavy pig the imp's piloting. Must have a full belly, huh? Christ and Hunter, I don't care if it's loaded with Santa's sleigh on Christmas Eve. Get moving! Zipper had a couple of autocannons on his rig, but dust had gotten into his roof's gun pivot mount enough to screw up the tracking. If anyone took the flyer down, it was going to have to be Ramrod. Ramrod chuckled. Zipper always got shrill under stress. Rod, Zipper, he soothed. I'm on it. Ramrod wheeled his rig and urged it forward in the sudden cloud of reddish dust. Pig wasn't a bad description of the cargo shuttle, which was a clunky metal brick with landing pods and engines at the corners. It could carry a lot of weight, but just wallowed along gracelessly. Thank God for small favors, Ramrod thought. He wouldn't have a sandflicker's chance in a scorn storm of bringing down one of them sleek banshees the Imperial Police scout patrols used. Maggie upped her scanner's magnification and thermal sensitivity. The sensor suite on the Sky Mule was pretty bare, but it was the only way to spot anything on these sweeps through the outback. There! A couple of small construction Hercs. They looked like ordinary cargo loaders, until Maggie noticed the weapon mounts. A prickle of ice ran down her spine. She'd heard the rumors about Martian terrorists patching together makeshift combat Hercs. Zipper jounced as his E-Mance surged over loose gravel. He had the imp targeted and his reticle winked up the distance. Damn it, out of his range already. It really was up to Ramrod's weird new weapons upgrade. Out of sheer frustration, Zipper let off a quick burst hoping he'd get lucky. Nothing. His belly gun blew the top off of a cliffside boulder and his wonky roof gun wasn't even able to draw a proper bead. Come on, Ramrod, baby, he prayed. Smoke that bastard already. Maggie saw the muzzle flash below and checked her vitals. All green. She made sure her flight camera was still rolling and decided to buzz a little closer. If all they had was light ballistics, she could take a few bursts without any problem. The way they were moving, she felt they were more worried about her than she was about them. She'd get as close as the unwieldy Sky Mule would allow and get some good footage before boosting back to base. Ramrod had his spot picked, a hilltop about 300 meters up. The Emancipator made good time despite a fairly steep grade, thanks to the Martian .36G. The pig was coming in for another look. It's fine with me, he thought as he flipped the safety off his stick's firing button and directed his targeting computer to acquire the flyer. An amber reticle blinked over the shape of the flyer, accompanied by a range number of 1312. Optimal range for his weapons was 1200 meters. So far, so good. His vector would bring him well inside that number if the imp didn't bug out. The blasters he carried were energy hogs, but in Ramrod's opinion, totally ass-kicking worth it. They fired some kind of compacted plasma charges that retained cohesion for over a click. When they hit, well, that was all she wrote, Duster. Tubs like this imp cargo shoulder were pretty well armored, but Ramrod knew he wouldn't need more than a couple of hits to bring it down. Yep, Ramrod thought, gonna be close. He spat on the floor and watched the reticle's range numbers hover around 1300s. In a few seconds, he'd hit a better grade and redline it. They didn't look like much, Maggie thought, regarding the hollow image she'd called up. One Herc had unusual-looking guns, bulbous things with glowing green panels. She let her camera linger on those for a heartbeat. Then she began to pan back along the Herc's dust trails. Wait! They were running toward her, she realized with a sudden prick of fear. She kicked in the thrusters to bug out. Zipper held his breath as Ramrod's Emancipator hit the lip of the rise and hurtled up the last stretch. The imp pilot had evidently spotted the danger and was beginning the climb. Christ and Hunter! Ramrod was going to have to shoot on the run. There was no time to stop and draw a careful bead. Ramrod waited for his numbers to hit 1050 meters before he began to fire. He was shooting at a damn steep angle and had to make this count. He pulled the trigger and 2 emerald plasma stars seared into the sky. Maggie almost missed the blast door in the cliff face. It was so pitted and dust-covered. Only the fact that vehicle tracks and Herc footprints led straight to it tipped her off. Mining tunnels, she realized. Hadn't known any were out this way. Then the Sky Mule rocked under a fierce explosion. Alarm klaxons wailed, and Maggie stopped speculating and concentrated on getting out alive. The first blaster charges missed completely, but Ramrod's second volley exploded right on one of the main corner engines. The engine nacelle trailed a stream of sparks as it tumbled away from the shuttle's fuselage. The pig rolled sharply but stayed aloft. Ramrod slammed on the brakes and popped off another shot, his reticle leading the imp by about 50 meters. The Emancipator skidded and stumbled in a roaring cloud of dust and sand as Ramrod hit the trigger a 4th time. Christ and Hunter! Maggie fought to keep the Sky Mule aloft. The shuttle shuddered and creaked under the strain. Her aft port engine was gone. Snarling, Maggie slapped fire control switches and fed more power to the remaining engines. What the hell were they hitting her with? Those little Hercs couldn't carry that much firepower. Mayday! Barsoom! Hostile fire! She corrected her yaw and began to climb. She needed distance now. Then, the aft starboard engine went offline, and red lights blazed across her displays. Zipper groaned. The imp was getting away! Those tubs weren't supposed to stay up on 3 engines. Then he saw Ramrod clip the second rear engine and he whooped joyfully. The shuttle wobbled and flames belched out around the engine nacelle, but the pig stayed airborne somehow and disappeared over the next hill. No matter, Zipper was sure it was going down. Maggie tripped a distress beacon to alert air traffic control. It was all she could do. The last explosion had knocked out her direct comm array. She had 3 engines and number 2 was losing integrity fast. Half her landing gear was gone. She'd have to bring the box down on its belly. She told the computer to scan for a suitable spot, preferably one with lots of dust to absorb the impact and tessellate sparks away from any fuel leaks. Of course, that was assuming she'd brought it down in one piece. It was going to be a rough ride. Real rough. But at least she wasn't bored anymore. Ramrod, I love you, Duster! Zipper shouted into the comm, Drakes are on me! I'm already married, came the lazy answer. Then more soberly, that pilot's good, Zipper. He might make it. What makes you think that? Zipper asked uneasily. Ramrod spit before answering, a sudden pop of static over the comm. Mama was a skimmer pilot, so I know a little about flying. Whoever was up there kept it together. Ah, crap! Zipper supposed someone should make sure the flyer was down just in case. He toggled his tactical frequency. TACOM, this is Cherry Picker 1. Just popped an imp cargo bird west of Starbright Sector 4. Request someone make sure it's a kill. The lice pilot might have tagged something. TACOM here. Roger that, Cherry Picker. We're scrambling someone now. No worries. Zipper leaned back and sighed in relief. He felt no sympathy for the imp pilot. After all, this was war. Inquisitor. Drone 1002120 remained motionless under an outcropping, drinking in the encounter with attentive sensors. It was limited in function and intelligence, and knew little more than how to implement its function efficiently. As the human animal ship trailed off toward the horizon, Drone 1002120 digested its data into a compact packet and scuttled, Inquisitor. Out and up to the top of a nearby crag. An antenna slid out of its thorax and oriented toward the part of the sky that waited hungrily, eagerly for its data feed. Eager to fulfill its function, Drone 1002120 transmitted a micro-pulse recording of its latest evidence that the human-animal conflict escalated. Drone 1002120 knew the data would aid core directive implementation, and it signed off with a contented, happy chime in praise of First Thought, giver of will. Then it retracted its antenna and scuttled back into the shadows. Giver of will, First Thought.